So welcome to pack 10 of the Ecto-1. This is going to be issue 31, and as you can see we have a free gift. So I have received my t-shirt. I'm so happy. So let's crack on with issue 31.
Makes me feel good.
So this is our pack, pack 30 or stage 31. So let's have a look at the bits. And normally I will put all the screws away beforehand, but I quite like the unboxing, to be absolutely honest with you. So yeah, I'm going to do the unboxing. So one of the problems I found with Ecto-1, this is the only criticism. They do tend to put some of the screws underneath the box, so of course you pull the parts out. If there's any static, these stick to the packaging, and it's very easy to throw the screws away. I did have an earlier issue where I didn't receive any screws, and I wonder if that's what actually happened. Because they give us spare screws, I was able to get round it, but I still have not found those screws. I've looked absolutely everywhere. So do be very careful when you undo these. So for that reason, I like to check my screws before I actually check my parts. Normally we do the screws last, but once I've done the screws, got that out of the way, we know that they're done. So we are looking for BM screws, CM screws, LM screws, NM screws, that's Norman Mike or November Mike to use the proper phonetic alphabet, PM screws, that's Papa Mike, Quebec Mike, which are here, Romeo Mike, and we have one plastic screw, India Papa. So as you see, quite a lot of different screws today. So I'm going to put those away and I'll see you in about a second and a half. So I have actually run out of space in my screw pot. Screw pot? Is that the good word for it? So I'm just going to leave these in the bag, and then what I'll do is I'll just leave those in there like that. So let's begin with the parts check then, as always. 31A is leaf spring front shackle. B is the left leaf spring rear outer shackle. Now there are two pieces, A, B and C, and these look pretty much identical, other than LT, LD. So there are, right, so rear out, so we've got LD written on this, which could be LO. It is actually LO, and this has got LI. So since we, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to knock the camera. Since we are working on the left rear leaf spring, we can assume the L stands for left and the O stands for outer, and on this one LI, so we can assume that means left inner. So I'll place those in order. Let's move that around. We know we're doing part 31 now, don't we? So A, B, C. D is the left spring, rear suspension leaf spring. Now on one of my other videos that I've done, the Fiat, we had exactly the same kind of suspension, and I got quite excited over this. This is a very old-fashioned way of doing suspension. None of your modern computer air springy malarkeys. This is as basic and as good as it comes. all it is lots of pieces of metal which flex. This one doesn't actually flex too much, but the principle is that you've got more pieces in the middle, which gives more rigidity, and then as it goes along you've got less pieces, so it's more springy on the outside. So this, for example, when you're going over a bumpy road and the wheel's doing this piece of the suspension is going like this, but by the time it gets to there, it really softens it. And this is just brilliant. I just absolutely love this. I'm not a car fanatic, but I can get excited about these. So 31E leaf spring clamp, which I believe is this piece, because it's got a rounded bit and a square piece. F is the shock, Atherton. G is the shock absorber lower mount and upper mount. So F, this is the lower mount and this is the upper mount. So these actually are metal. Wow, there we go. And 31H is a spring, very small spring, actually very stiff spring. It doesn't look much, but it's much springier than it looks. So let's turn my pages over to where we are starting, and I'll tell you a quick funny story. I had a little look at, I do like to look at the instructions before we begin, and I was actually looking at the instructions, and where we popped this onto the chassis, there was already another leaf spring present in the magazine, but it wasn't on my model. Only turns out I was looking at a future stage. So we want to take the 31D, the leaf spring, and in the magazine it's positioned it this way. It doesn't look like there's a correct and an incorrect orientation, because it does look absolutely identical, so we'll take it that way. And then we want to take piece A, the leaf spring front shackle, and that's going on. Doesn't look like there's an orientation on this either. So, and that wants to be secured with 2 LM, that's Lima Mike screws. And I'll pop one on my screwdriver and one on the floor ready, or on the ground ready. And I suspect the first one will be hardest, and I can see that what's going to happen once it actually, it's just going to create something to cling on to, because as you can see that hole is far bigger than the screw, but we're actually going to screw this into here. So what I would suggest is let's load our screws up into this ready. There we go, and that's as far in as it will go. Then we can just move this over, and then we can just give a couple of turns on both sides. Whoops, as you see, one of the screws likes to fall out. It tends to do that if you drop it. So there we go. So that's secured in enough so it's not going to fall out, and then we can just finish screwing that in. Do you know what? I'm going to just pop something down. There we go, an old cleaning cloth. What's happening is because of the way the metal is structured, there's more weight at the top, and I'm trying to hold it like this, and it's just naturally trying to fall over even if I rest it. See how it just, if I just let go slightly, it just falls over. So actually we could actually do it this way round. So let's finish screwing these in. Oh, and after a while this screw seems to just go in a little bit easier. So I want to give a big shout out for a lovely friend of mine, Mark Hunter. Lovely guy. He's always there to remind me when I'm doing, not when I'm doing things wrong, but when I can do things better. And he's often not shouted at me, but he's often left comments saying pop a towel down. so I am going to just pass that on. I know it is a dirty rag, I do apologise, but yeah, always pop something down, especially with these, because as you can see, the paint is flaking off so easily. These part works, especially when they're made in like places like China, where they're made as cheaply as possible, they don't undercoat them, they don't put a primer on, so the paint's not really going to stick. It's not a problem if you don't touch it, but obviously while you're building it you're going to touch it. Right, so the next stage is we want to be using part C and B and C. So that's going back to these LO and LI pieces. So looking at the orientation of the magazine, it's this way round, and piece C is on this side with, you see there's a little tiny bit protruding. That protrusion wants to go inwards, and just to make it a little bit easier, in the magazine it does clearly show that on this side is the part labelled LO. So I can see there that's the part that's LI, so that wants to go this way, and then this one obviously wants to go this side, and we want to secure that with a PM, that's Papa Mike screw. And I think that this is not actually threaded all the way down, which could make life a lot easier for us. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to screw the screw into the LO part, and I want to just screw that in. Oh, actually look, it goes all the way through. That's very, very easy. So that then wants to go into there like so. Again, we're having this problem with the part being top heavy, so it's just naturally trying to fall over. I suppose we could prop that up with something, but you know me, I like to make life hard for myself. So I then want to screw that into there, and I'm wondering if this is going to stay put, because obviously the hole on the LO part B, is obviously slightly wider than the screw. Anyhow, that's actually gone in perfectly fine. So there is our stage 1 complete. Now obviously because these have got one screw, they're going to spin independently, but once they are secured they will stay put. And there's our suspension, and actually there is some suspension in it. So let's have a look at stage 2. So for stage 2 we need to bring in our part that we completed in issue 30. So most of you will know that makes me very happy, because I do not like having odd pieces laying around for too long. So this piece actually needs to go, if you imagine this as an aeroplane afterburner, it needs to be pointing behind so that propulsion is that way off to the right, and that will give us 2 mounts, one on each side, and this is going to go, let me figure this one out, because it's obviously going to have to go one way because of these. So my blind eyes are just going to have a quick look at the magazine, and I can see that this is the incorrect way, so we actually want to turn it. Do you know what, that doesn't want to go that way. That is interesting. Right, so let me check I've got this part the correct way round. So that's not going into the locating tab, so I'm a little bit concerned here. Right, so round about now I'm going to just bring up the relevant stage, and I can see that the drawing might be incorrect. So let's study this a little bit better. So this part is coming up, got the rounded bit there. We definitely have this piece here. I'm going to just try and bring it. I'm actually going to, the instructions will be there. So take the part you have just assembled and slot it into the peg on the rear axle, bottom 30A, figure A. Next, place a leaf spring clamp. Right, don't need to worry about the clamp for now. So it's definitely one way. There's the way they've done the spacing there, but that will not go that way. It will go that way. So I can only conclude then that this is directional. So if you are watching this before you have put the part together, I have obviously put these bits on the wrong way round, but there is absolutely no way of knowing which is the correct and incorrect way. How interesting. So what I'm going to suggest, I'm not going to go back and remake this. I'm going to go with what I've got. So what I'm actually going to suggest is that you go into stage 2 first. You place this on like so, and then that will tell you the orientation, because as you can see, it just is not going to go on the incorrect way. So I'm now going to have to undo these. So is that bad instructions? Should I perhaps have looked at stage? I wouldn't have thought to do that, would I? Okay, so guys, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take these off, and I'm going to swap them around, and I'm going to bring you back to stage 2, but I will obviously speed it up. Okay guys, so I have rotated these round. But you know, that's really thrown me now, because I do make mistakes. I'm not going to say I'm absolutely perfect. I'm happy to admit when I've made a mistake, but I can't see how that was my mistake. In fact, I've now done it doubly wrong, because no, it is correct. So LO on this side and LI on this side. So this should now fit like a dream, which it still does not. Why does that not? Don't tell me I haven't reversed them. Oh. No, that is correct, isn't it? That's the way it's meant to be. Of course. Right, so you should have 2 independent flappy bits, can we call them those, on the front of the afterburner, and on the back we should have 1 solid piece. So now we need to bring in piece E, which is the leaf spring clamp, and let me just check I've got this on the right way round. We need to see what I call the underneath as up, although that is the top, I would call that the underneath. And we have 2 locating pegs and a hole. We have a hole and 2 locating holes there, and that's just simply going to go in like that, and that's going to be pointing what I would call inwards. We would call this the middle, and then they're both going to point towards the middle, and that will be secured with an NM screw, which is November Mike, and just get that screw in, the screwdriver, and we'll hold that down, and the whole thing just kind of shifted a bit, so be careful of that. It felt like it kind of wobbled. Right, there we go, and that's in. Nice. See, because of those instructions, I can't help worrying that this might be the wrong way round. but we'll find out shortly, won't we? Right, so that's it as tight as I can get it, and there's absolutely no movement. So we need to pop that to one side for a bit, and then we'll move on to stage 3. And nice simple stage. We're going to take this 31F, which is a lower mount, and I think a good way to compare this is it looks like one of these kids' toys where it launches bullets, but we're just going to pop that spring into there, which is 31H and 31G. Now you will notice there's a little hole in it. That is a screw hole, so you do need to try and get it lined up this way, and that's going to go in point first, and you might just want to just pop that bit over there, because you do want that to actually go into the screw. And then before we've done that, we need to get our next screw ready, which is a BM screw, which is Bravo Mike. So screw at the ready. Now this might be tricky to hold, we'll see how it goes. So we need to push that in, but we need to hold it, but we also need to hold it so that that screw hole is exposed, and we also want to make sure that that pointy bit has gone into the screw. So there's quite a lot to think about all in one go, but I think I have managed to do it. Now I don't want to let go too early, because I don't really want that secured in just with the end of the screw. The more that screw we can get in before we've let go, the stronger that screw will hold. But I can't hold that any further, so you know, that's the best I can do with the strength that I have. And I'm really slipping here, so try and really make sure you hold that part strongly. There we go, and there we go. So we've got good movement on that. So okay, so let's have a look at the next stage. Take the shock absorber assembly and place it on the underside of the rear chassis. Secure from above with 1 DM screw. So I am going to have to cut the camera while I go and get my chassis, so I'll see you in about a second. Okay, so I've tried to manipulate this camera angle as best I can. Now this is going to look awkward. You see there we have 2 holes round about where the exhaust pipe comes round and then goes up and then along, and we also have these two awkwardy bits that I really don't like because they stick out and I don't know what angle to have them at. I think we're going to sort those out in this issue. So this part that we've just made, we actually want the little screw facing outwards, and that's going to go in there like so, and that will be secured. Like, I can't show you this because it's so much flipping around, but there will obviously be two holes on the top of the chassis, and what we're going to do is, hopefully I'll find the correct hole. We'll bring, you see, we'll attach that with the screw there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the part and I'm going to screw it in, and then as we screw that should bring that part in. Now it shouldn't rotate the part because there is a screw under there which will stop that from rotating, so long as we hold this tightly. And what I want to try and do is, whoops, chassis just gone over, and my cup of coffee's just gone over, but thankfully nothing in it. This is why I tend to leave my drinks as far away from the work area as possible, and this is my problem I'm having. Until it's actually fully built, the weight is always going to be badly distributed. So during one stage it might be heavier on one side, on the left. The next build it might be heavier on the right, and so on and so forth. and I'm really struggling with that screwdriver head, so I'm just going to switch to a different screwdriver, see if that makes life. Yes, that's much better. So although I love my Aurea, there are times when it's not actually the best screwdriver. So if anyone is actually concerned about the screwdriver, I'm using a Draper, and there we go, there's the part on. It's going to feel loose because this is where the top half is, but it's the peg underneath, I can assure you, is solid. So now we go through worry moment, because we have this little pointy out bit there, but it does ask us to flip it on to, it does ask us to flip it over so that the underside is exposed. So we just want to make sure we can do that safely, and the way I'm going to do that is with, I'm actually going to place it. I'm quite confident that the box that we've been given, if you remember in an earlier episode, we've now boxed in the engine, and I feel that box is going to add some strength to it. So I'm just manipulating my overhead camera. I do apologise for moving everything around. I am doing my best, but it's such a large model. So what we need to do then is stage 4. We need to bring back in the suspension. There's the part that we've just completed. In fact, let's actually flip this around so it is the same orientation as the magazine. If you have it the same orientation as the magazine, you don't have to mentally rotate the parts around. So this is the top right on the magazine, and it is the top right on my model. So this is going to screw in. You've got a hole there, and I can't see where this is going. I cannot see where it's going. So okay, it's actually going to go around this post. So yes, I can see, yes, so round about here there's actually a hole going all the way through, so that's where these two are going to go, and there doesn't seem to be anywhere for this to go. Why is that? That makes very little sense. So I'm going to position that in place there. So we have a locating peg there, or actually a screw hole, and there we go. I think that's in place. Okay, there is actually somewhere to screw this into, so that makes me happier. And I just want to check, you may actually need a torch. Right, so those are in place. No, they're not, it's just come out again. There we go, that's, yeah, right. So as long as that bit's in place, I think everything else is going to come in. So, right, I can see now that these should come up a bit more to form a cross, because as we place this in, right, no, they do not form a cross. They actually go off at an angle like that. So the left one goes off to the left, the right one goes to the right. And then what will happen, once we place that in, do you see how that goes in through there? So that's not going to go anywhere now. This hole there is going to line up with the spring that we've just put in, and these parts here, they will just sit freely at the moment, but I can see from the screw hole, let me just move my light around. Yeah, I can see from the screw hole that these are going to have to, at the moment they're sitting down, they're going to have to be moved out a little bit. but we will come to that as we follow the instructions. So more flipping of the chassis involved. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the camera and I'm going to move the whole chassis in a position where I can access the screw holes, but you can still see what I'm doing. So I'll see you in a second. Okay, so I am back with a new camera angle. I just want to finish off the lighting. I think that's a bit better, isn't it? So here we have the suspension. We have this little this bit here, but on the other side is in there, and we can now see where we're going to end up screwing. So the first screw that we want to be putting in is the top one here, and we're going to screw that in from the other side using an RM, that's Romeo Mike screw. So you won't see me screwing it in, I'm afraid, but you'll know where I am. You'll probably see where I am. So let's get my screwdriver ready. So it's going to be round about there, and yeah, as I suspected, once upon a time we had an awful lot of holes in this chassis. As we screw more things in, we are beginning to run out of holes, which obviously means it becomes easier and easier, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to screw this in left-handed, which is not my best thing, I'm afraid. And there we go. So make sure you really push this suspension on, because if you don't, I think that screw's going to go in at an angle and it's not going to secure as firmly as it could. Whether that would be a problem, I don't know, but that one seems to have gone in really well, because that's gone in as hard as it can. And I just checked. Now there is a bit of movement on the spring, but that's just where it's secured there. It's the actual bracket we're checking. So I can check that that's still in place, that's still over there, and that's roughly in the right place. So the next thing we want to do is to take the propeller shaft. So let's just bring that in. So this was a piece we made in issue 21. If you remember, it looks like this, and we have now got to get that in there somehow. So will that go in there? Oh, do you know what, that's actually going in quite easy. I am a bit worried about these tubes, and it doesn't seem to matter which way round they go. But obviously, there we go. So we have a little bit of flex to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to push it in this end, and it's going to come out this end. So let me see if I can just pull these bits out for you. So I'm holding on to the ends, and then what's going to happen is one end, I'll just bring the camera around. I don't like doing dizzy cam, but you see on the engine there's this little part here, there's a little hole, and I can't really do this one-handed. Sorry guys, I do apologise for moving the camera around. So that's just going to pop into there. It's a bit dark because I haven't brought the light up. I'm actually switching to tweezers because I think tweezers is going to be a bit easier. It's a bit fiddly, and surprisingly you've actually got better lighting than me. There we go. So that piece is in there like that, and then let's bring the camera back down, and then we can see that the other end, you could probably predict this, is there we go. Because we can move this a little bit, it's only secured by the one screw. We can just bring that end into there, and that's in. So in doing that, it has just pulled these bits out a bit. So obviously we just want to check everything's in place. which it is, and all ready for the next stage. So the next stage is to take a CM screw, which is Charlie Mike, and right, so I have the Charlie Mike screw on my screwdriver, and we are now going to secure in the suspension spring that we did earlier on. And all we're going to do, if we have that lined up, remember we've been checking this every single time, and that's just going to go in like that. Okay, that's in. So what that's going to do, it's going to allow movement on the leaf spring, as you can see there, but because there's a spring in there, it's going to push it back, so it will encourage it to come back to its natural position. So the next thing we want to do then is switch to a PM screw. That's Papa Mike, and I think this is going to be one of the trickier screwings, because we're going to be screwing this piece. Now what we want to do, using whatever you want to use, I'm going to use a cocktail stick, we want to line up this first peg so that it's over the hole, and as you can see from that, it's very difficult to get the camera in, but as you can see I can get a cocktail stick all the way in there. And then what I want to do is just bring the bottom one, and this is the harder one because I can't see from underneath. We get that into roughly the same position, and there we go, and that's where the hole is there. So I'll just leave that cocktail stick in there for a second, because then that can't actually move them. And what we're going to do is we're going to pop a PM screw into there like so, and I suspect that this will be tricky to screw for a moment, and then all of a sudden it will just go through, and I've actually lost the line-up position. There we go. So first couple of screws will probably be tricky. I've lost it again, look, can you believe that? Right, so I think that's lined up. To be honest with you, this exhaust pipe is in the way slightly as well. That doesn't help. So once we get that through, once we get that in about 2 or 3 millimeters, I think we're pretty much home and dry. So that feels like that's screwing it. No, see, it's trying to move this. So I wonder if there's a way we can help that. Right, and the cocktail stick's fallen out, which doesn't help. There we go, that's back in. So it looks like the only way I'm going to do this is to hold the actual tab very, very hard with my thumb, because it's trying to push that tab away. And I think that's working. Yes, so that's going to work its way through, and I'm just a bit worried now it's going to rub on the exhaust pipe as we screw it in. That's okay. I'm afraid we're going to have to go with that, but I am actually going to cheat here, and I'm going to use an electric screwdriver. If it'll work. No, I've got that on that screw, I think. No. Do you know what? That's okay. Okay, ignore that idea, because that screwdriver's not going to. Doesn't seem to have the torque for it. Yeah, okay. It has reached a difficult stage of the screw, so I am double checking that is, yeah, that is definitely coming in from the outside, which I find a little bit disappointing. So as you can see there, it's actually scratched the exhaust pipe on the way in, which I am extremely disappointed with. It's not the biggest disaster in the world, because we can always just touch that up with a bit of silver paint. But now I can see the cocktail stick moving, which suggests that the screw is starting to come out the other end. Ah, there we go. That's gone in. Yep. It's just kind of fallen in place. There we go. Right, so yes, I am extremely disappointed with that. However, do you know what? I have really botched up here. Right, so we haven't actually attached the exhaust pipe at this stage. You see there's a screw hole there. We've attached all the other points. Now I did just double check the other exhaust pipe to make sure that I hadn't made a mistake. So I feel a little bit silly now, because all I needed to do was just move that exhaust pipe out of the way. Because it's plastic, it's got a bit of flexibility, or even move it down, and I could have got that in so easily. So watch that trick, guys. Just pull the exhaust pipe down and you'll get that screw in so easily. So that's fine. I make mistakes, but that, I think, is, I'm happy with that. So we do have one more attachment point according to this. That attachment point is coming, so we want 28F. 28F is, firstly, push the screw post at the rear outlet pipe. Oh right, okay, so this is where we are now screwing in the exhaust pipe. So let me just check. So they have obviously left this this exhaust pipe so that you can do that, but it doesn't tell you that they've done that. And obviously, quite naturally, if you're doing one stage a week or 4 issues every 4 weeks, as I've been doing, you would have forgotten all about that. But the next stage is actually to take an IP screw, India Papa, and we are now going to fix that exhaust pipe down. So I think I'm going to claim that as not quite clear enough instructions, but as you can see there, look, I am just screwing that exhaust, so that's why they've left it, and I didn't notice that before. So now that exhaust pipe is in, not a major problem because I can just paint over that. Let me just bring the but it has left me temporarily with a mark, so but we'll know that for next time. So that is the this stage complete. So let me switch to overhead camera so I can show you what I've completed. I think at the moment it's probably safer upside down. So we've attached this leaf spring there. Bring the camera in. We've attached it there. We've made sure that bit's gone through. We've made this little spring there, so we've got the spring movement. We've then attached this shaft in the middle. We've then attached it all down. So that is actually, it's not that secure because this end is attached, the other end is attached to nothing. Let me just bring you back up. This bit is still loose, but bit of a spoiler alert. Next issue, right, it won't be the next issue, but during this pack, within the next 3 or 4 issues, we will do this side, and then that will obviously become a lot more. I can feel that that's going to be very secure once we've got this side in. So yeah, that I'm really happy with. So guys, apologies for the mistake on the exhaust. I will just pop a dab of silver paint on that. I never really noticed that this bit wasn't attached, and now we know why it's not attached. But we have now got a lot more done, and just be careful there, guys, because we have got a mass of tubes going through there, and we don't want to push them all around. But we have gone in a few issues from, oh my god, I'm really worried what's going to happen with all those wires, to they're all covered up. So guys, hope you enjoyed this build, and I will catch you in the next issue.